reference we can use to really encourage good movements to that kind of trail, shoulder and back. So it's almost the idea of kind of ear to shoulder. So to be very precise, the kind of AC joint is shown by that circle on the screen at the top of that kind of that trail shoulder, almost the distal part, the end of the clavicle in some ways. If you kind of feel it, it's that little lumpy bone just at the top of the shoulder and the ear. So really encouraging good movements to that shoulder would be whatever length and space we have between the ear and the top of that shoulder address. As we move through backswing, that space and length remains the same. So in essence, ear to shoulder distance, ear to shoulder length remains the same. So slightly kind of side onto the camera, whatever space you observe between the trail ear and the AC joint, the top of that kind of shoulder, the distal part, the furthest part, that kind of clavicle. As we move through backswing, the space between ear to shoulder remains the same. So common adaptations we can see, often we get very narrow, we start to kind of elevate up to that kind of trail shoulder. The space gets kind of very compressed and reducing that space to that ear to shoulder. So using that ear to shoulder distance can be a very kind of playful, a very exploratory way of encouraging that movement through that trail shoulder, movement through that rib cage, keeping that length of neck. There's also a very common reason why many players experience wrist pain, elbow pain, up into kind of neck pain. They get very short, that kind of top of the shoulder, the humeral head in some way starts to elevate and move upwards. They get very compressed through that kind of that neck area. That can often then connect, for example, in that rib cage, moving excessively into that kind of very extended, kind of very laterally flexed, compressed position. So using that reference, ear to shoulder, space between the ear, space between the top of the shoulder, as we move through backswing, keeping that space the same, can be a very playful way, again, looking at things like connections for that kind of trail scapula, trail shoulder blade into that trail arm, encouraging good rotation, movement through the pelvis, pressure on the floor. So using that ear to shoulder space can be a very playful way of then really encouraging good connections to that trail arm, scapula, rib cage as we move and rotate through backswing.